Hi, welcome to my channel, Life After Losing My Child. On this channel, I like to talk about my own personal experiences after losing my daughter. The purpose of this channel is to have a place where those that have suffered the loss of a child can come, get honest about grief, find support and inspiration as we all move towards our individual journeys towards healing. If this sounds good to you, then hit the subscribe button and don't forget to hit the bell for a notification. So today I actually like to talk about grief and guilt. Um, I took a few notes. So, as we have gone through this journey of losing our child, you might be in the beginning of your journey, in the middle, or towards the end where acceptance lies. But guilt is throughout the whole journey, it seems, at least for me. So, with guilt, we always think about the woulda, shoulda, coulda, all the things we could have done to change the outcome. I've done some research. I've looked at different videos. I had my own experiences, but I wanted to come and see what other people had to say, see if I was the only one feeling so guilt-ridden about losing my daughter and what I could have done so that she could still be here. I think that's always what we're looking for, is to find out, could I have done something different in order for my child to be here? Because the pain is so great. We're always looking to see what else could have been done. So when I was doing some research, it says that the guy I was looking at on his video, he was talking about when someone dies and there's nothing that could be done, you always think what you could have done. And he was saying that people would rather feel guilty than to feel helpless. And I definitely agree with that idea and what he was saying, because with guilt, I would rather feel like I could have done something different, than to feel like there's nothing I could have done. With having the guilt, you always feel like, if I could have done this, then my child would be here, and that's easier than to think about, no matter what I could have done, that there's no different outcome that could have been. I think about even with losing Brianna, and I'm always thinking about what could have been, even in reference to God. If he would have let me know sooner, then maybe I could have acted and the outcome would have been different. If I would have known she was sick sooner, then I would have been able to take her to the doctors and she still could have been here. That's easier than me feeling like there's nothing I could have done. I think that's moving more towards the acceptance, and that's the hardest part. That, I guess that's why it's kind of the final stage. Some people say the final stage, but I've talked about how even with acceptance, you begin to accept things, but then you may fall back, and then you come to acceptance again, you may fall back. I think acceptance is another stage as well, just like the rest of them, where you can come out, go in. It's like the waves of grief. It's not a destination, but it's another stage that you come into. But it is a stage where you begin to start feeling like you realize, I guess, that there is nothing that could have been done. You let yourself off the hook of grief, and you start to uh, look towards the future. You know what I mean? You begin to accept the reality that your child is gone. And so, with guilt, I think guilt is a form of control that we want to have. We want to have not the guilt, but we want to have some form of control where we feel like we could have changed the outcome. To have no control leaves you feeling helpless, and powerless, and nobody likes to feel that way. So with the helplessness that comes, I think that's the most vulnerable that anybody can feel, to feel like I'm totally out of control, and to submit to that, to submit to those feelings of not having control, is something that's hard for people that haven't lost children just in daily life. But when you have lost a child, to have no control is one of the hardest things. So I'm looking at some of my notes, and it talks about, um, like I just said, with many, the thing that I looked up was called the Center for Grief Journey. And so with that, they talk about many feel guilty, he says, the guy that was on the video, he says, and feeling guilty, it means that the outcome could have been changed. You try to discover what could have been done. A guilt feeling leaves you with a sense of control. If only means that the outcome could have been changed. If only you had done this and that. And also he talks about what could have been done, allows us also to puts us in a place where we punish ourselves, which I definitely have gone through with losing Brianna. Punishing myself, feeling like, I failed. How could I have dropped the ball? How could I have, done all these things? Even though it's punishing myself, it still leaves me with a sense of control, as though I had control over life and death. And clearly, no one does. In our human state, no one has control over life or death. Only God allows, those things to happen. So you can also feel, I guess, that when it comes to God too, the outcomes could have been changed if God only would have done this, or God only would have done that. But I believe that God knows what he's doing. That's what I've come to realize. Even though I don't feel good about what's been done, I still have to trust God and know that he can see all the way down the line, and that this world isn't the thing that is the end. That's just my belief system. So they also talk about kind of taking inventory and coming to a realization of how much evidence actually supports that it was your fault. You know what I mean? We could make a list and we could say, man, if I would have done X, Y, and Z, and we have a whole list of everything that could have been done that could have changed the outcomes, and that also points to us being the ones at fault. But when we make our list, is that just another thing as far as control? You know what I mean? I think it's something to really take some inventory and look at. You got to come to terms with guilt, because it actually produces a lot of negative and counterproductive behavior. I mean, if you're stuck in the guilt so much, then it never allows you to be free to realize what you can do now, your own purpose, what could be done with the rest of your life. Can you help others, with healing? Can you help revitalize a piece of yourself? I mean, even me doing these videos and everything, I'm not saying you have to do videos. What I'm saying, though, is me coming to a point of letting myself more and more off the hook, realizing that I had no control over that situation, and submitting to that I had no control, and also submitting to whatever God's will is, has allowed me to be more transparent and allowed me to help others heal by letting them know they're not alone. And it's also helped myself heal, you know what I mean? Because I'm being honest about the guilt. I'm being honest about how I feel about these things, and not running from it, but more now walking with grief and walking through it and adjusting and learning, instead of, feeling so guilty and running from the pain and running from these feelings. And so you got to come to terms with that. You also have to learn to forgive yourself, so that's a huge, huge part, something that I'm still working on. I mean, just because I make these videos doesn't mean that I'm so far from everything, or what they say, out of the woods. Well, pardon the pun there, but out of out of the woods of grief. I'm definitely not. I still struggle with forgiving myself and realizing that there's nothing I could have done, because the reality is And I think we all know as grieving parents, if we would have known better, if we would have done something different to allow our child to be here, we would have. And I think that's something that can help you let yourself off the hook. You know what I mean? Is if I could have done something more, if I would have known Brianna was sick, you think I wouldn't have taken her to the doctor so much sooner? Of course I would have. If I would have known she had type 1, you know, would I have made sure she had her medication? Yes. You know, it's all these things that if I would have known, and if it really was in my control, then my child would still be here. And so with that, I think that that can help you release yourself from the guilt. You also have to accept, I think, that we are humans, you know, and in our human state, we have limitations. There's only so much that we can do and only so much that we are privy to, you know. So that's something else I think will help you with the guilt. There's the serenity prayer, which I was looking at, and the serenity prayer, it says, God grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And that definitely helps with this topic, you know. God grant me the serenity to accept the things that I can. You know, an acceptance of your child being gone doesn't mean that you're saying it's okay. It means that you're coming to a realization that your child has passed, and that is what the new reality is. It's not okay. It doesn't mean you're happy about it. It just means that you're coming to terms with the fact that you had no control over what has happened, but yet you're willing to go on. The courage to change the things that I can, and that's definitely helpful, even with, you know, just being able to change your perspective on things. You can change your perspective on things. That is something that you can do. You could decide to be grateful for the moments that you did have with your child. You know, you could decide to not live in the stage of anger or of bargaining. You know, you can choose that. I'm not saying it's an easy choice. It's definitely for the rest of your life you're going to have to make this constant decision. But that is something that you could change, and the wisdom to know the difference, you know. So there's definitely something helpful to kind of remind yourself of. So with the serenity, it's actually acceptance and empowerment is kind of what I gathered from it. There's certain things you can't, like I said, you can't change that they died, but you can change how you look at it. You can't change what you didn't do, you know, but you can look at the relationship in the moments that you shared, and look at all the things that you did do for your child when they were alive, you know. So I challenge you to look at the cans and look at the can'ts, that, you know, what you couldn't do and what you didn't do, but also look at what you did do and what you can do for the future. So that is my that's my video on guilt. And I know it definitely hangs you up. It definitely leaves you depressed. It definitely could take so much more from you. But I would hope that you can take your life back. You could realize you do not have control over life and death. You did everything that you could have done, because I know that you have loved your child and still do, you know. And so just, people say concentrate on the good things. It's definitely not easy. It's easier said than done, but that's not even what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's an easy fix. Just think of all the good times. No, what I am saying, though, is that do not negate the good times. Do not forget about, you know, everything that you did for your child up until the moment that they passed, and everything you continue to do for your child. You know, I just think about, I started a foundation for my daughter. You know, many of us have memorials or do different things, even just with our families, have traditions where we remember our child, the things that you continue to do because you love your child. And if you're not doing any of those things, the fact that you're still living, because you believe that you have a purpose here too, in spite of losing your child. Just keep your head up, be encouraged. You are not alone, and I hope to see you next time. So if you like what you heard, or you feel like somebody else could benefit from these videos, then hit the subscribe button and hit the notifications so you can stay tuned to my upcoming videos. Check out some of my past videos where we really get honest about grief. Also, you can find me on Instagram, Life After Losing My Child. I hope to, be starting, well, I've started it, but I hope to have out my blog and possibly a radio show, a podcast, where we could actually talk about all these different topics. And you guys could call in, leave a comment, and I look forward to talking to you next time. All right, bye. Oh, enjoy the scenery. I'm at the woods taking a walk. But see you next time. Bye.